when a woman chooses to say, I'm not having any children right now, and she's deemed selfish, and people say things to her like, aren't you gonna give him a son? Don't you want to give him a daughter? Don't you want to give him? And she's like, no. Hey family, it's Danielle, and today on this Tuesday chat, we are going to chat about sacrifices, and even more so, women sacrificing. So if you are interested in talking about how we sacrifice as women and my thoughts on that, stick around for the video.
The snob life, the homeschooling life, the boss life, the non-traditional life, the family life,
telling it how it is, life outside the box.
And if you don't know what that means,
it's the non-traditional mommy.
Baby.
Before we jump into this Tuesday chat, if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Danielle and I am the non-traditional mommy. And on Tuesdays, we sit down and we talk. We chat about all different types of topics and discussions. And so if you're interested in chatting and like to talk, then hit the subscribe button and join my little family. To the rest of my non-traditional family, you guys are the MVPs. There is no other word. You are the MVPs, and I love you guys bunches. Now, let's chat. So I hope you guys already got your drinks. If not, I'll wait. I am drinking tea today, and I have turmeric and ginger. So that is the tea of choice for this chat. I am using my Hers. Can you guys see it? My Hers mug, because we're talking about women and the sacrifices that we make. So I figured that this mug was fitting for this topic. So let's talk, you guys. Let's chat. Me and a friend were discussing relationships, marriage in particular, and sacrifices, and women making sacrifices. And we were more so talking about parenting from the standpoint of having children and parenting and careers and things like that. With everything going on with COVID-19 and schools are in a disarray and parents having to make the decision to send their child back to school or virtual or homeschool and all of these different things, and that burden of responsibility and where it falls and what that looks like in relationships, in particular marriage and things like that. And so that is what kind of sparked this conversation. I was saying to her that a lot of the times it's the woman that takes on the burden of that choice. It is the woman that has to make some form of sacrifice. When you think about when it comes to parenting or a career or things like that. So when you think about climbing the ladder at your career, or a woman who is in a corporate type position who also has children and a husband, if the child gets sick at school or something happens at school, and say the woman has a meeting, the man has a meeting, a lot of times it's going to be expected of the woman to cancel her meeting or to figure out some type of arrangement to get the child home from school. Rarely does it fall on the shoulders of the man, to say, I'm not leaving my meeting, you need to leave your meeting. And if that happens, and it does happen, you guys, where the woman will opt not to go, or the husband will step up and go, then now the woman is looked at as a bully, or you've ripped his off and you're trying to wear the pants, or what kind of mother are you, and these type of things. All these judgments happen because this decision was made, or he is a punk, or he needs to wear the pants, or he needs to put her in her place, or whatever the case may be. He's looked at as less than a man with these judgments. But when it becomes, he says no, you need to go, and the woman now cancels her meeting, then that's okay. It's okay that she made that sacrifice and may have lost an opportunity for a promotion because she made that sacrifice. In a lot of relationships, it is just expected and accepted. So not only expected, but it is accepted for women to take on this role. Okay, let me go back, because I was a stay-at-home mom. So I'm not saying in a way of a derogatory way. I'm saying in a way of, it is expected for a woman to give up everything, her dreams, her plans, her nap, her privacy in the bathroom, whatever it is, that is expected, and it is accepted and okay. But for a man to do those same things, he's looked at in a different light, and it's not accepted, and it's definitely not expected. And so, along those same lines of career, let me drink, y'all. It's so hot. Along those same lines of career, we were discussing how a lot of times you'll meet someone that's a transplant into your city, and you're like, oh, okay, what brought you guys here? And they will say, my husband's job. It's very rare, now I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rare that you will hear a husband or a man say, my wife's job. It's always like, oh, okay, and that's looked at as a good thing. Nobody ever wonders what she gave up, what sacrifices were made, what compromises were made for her to uproot and move to where his job was moving them. Be it she left her support system, she left her family, maybe she was in a thriving career that was soaring, maybe her kids were at a school that was good for them, and she was building a rapport there, and her friends had friendships and she had friendships. Things that were good for her mental health, her self-care. All of those things were sacrifices that were given up to just simply move because her husband's job is moving. And this is what we do as women. We make these sacrifices. And how easy, the question becomes, is how easy would that same type of sacrifice be if it's reversed? And of course, people are going to say, well, obviously, if she makes more money, he's going to go where she goes. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's not about who makes the most money. There are times where the wife may make more money and could potentially make more money if they move, but the husband loves his career. He has his dream job. He's doing exactly what he has always wanted to do. And so moving would mean giving that up, i.e. sacrificing. And I'm just not willing to do that. It could be an example of if he works for a certain sports team and that's been his dream job, and you want to move to, Florida. Well, obviously he would have to give up his dream job and sacrifice in order to make that move. Rarely does that happen. I use the word rarely because, again, it does happen, but not as frequently as it happens for women who will sacrifice and move and give up their careers to follow their husband or significant other. The basis of the conversation was, loneliness is this illusion that is sold to women, that we are sold the idea of needing to be in a relationship, and that somehow being married or a wife or a mother will bring us fulfillment and joy and make us feel whole, and all of these things that society feeds us. I feel like spoon feeds us as women from the time we're little. It's like you start grooming your daughter to be a wife and a mother, so that when she is a wife and a mother, these sacrifices are easier to swallow because they've been fed to us for so long. And what would happen if we somehow realized that we don't have to be a wife or be a mother or have a husband to be a mother, or just because we're a wife doesn't mean we have to be a mother, or just because we're a wife doesn't mean we can't be career women, or maybe we don't want to be any of those things. What happens if we feel strong and fulfilled in that? What if there is no loneliness from not having a title attached to us, but just being us? What would that be like? Could there be so much relief and freedom for so many women out there who are single and feeling a void in their life? Is that void because they really, truly, strongly desire being in a relationship or being a mother? Or is that void because that's what they've been fed and they don't know anything outside of that? You know, as women, if we realize and grasp that I can still travel, I can still buy a house, I can still have a child, I can still do these things by myself, and I'm still going to make some sacrifices either way, but I can do these things and I can be okay. Like, I'm not broken because I don't have these things, or I'm not lonely because I don't have this. You know, I have a great support system and friends and families and things like that, and I'm happy and I'm thriving and life is good. Can that be the case? And loneliness is an illusion that we are sold. I don't know. What do you guys think? I know I'm seriously playing devil's advocate here, but what do you guys think about that? Like, what are your thoughts on loneliness being sold to women as a way to make us swallow the sacrifice pill a lot easier? Because you don't really see men, and again, guys, there's always exceptions, but for men who are not married or who don't have children and who are climbing the ladder or traveling or doing all these things, there isn't any like, when are you gonna settle down and get married? Now, maybe his mom is saying that because she wants some grandkids, but there isn't this whole burden of, aren't you lonely, or don't you get lonely, or, you know, don't you want a wife? And no, you know, there's not that burden to carry for him as though he has to do this right now. And so, keeping that same theory going, when a woman chooses to say, I'm not having any children right now, and she's deemed selfish, and people say things to her like, aren't you going to give him a son? Don't you want to give him a daughter? Don't you want to give him? And she's like, no, because I'm the one that's going to be getting up at night. I'm the one that's going to be doing this. I'm the one whose body has to bear this person, and then she's called selfish because of that? Come on, y'all. Come on. Because the reality is that's all true. And again, she may have a very supportive husband, very, very supportive. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, who are we looking at for the expectation to get up with that child at night when that child is crying, especially if she's breastfeeding? Who are we looking at? And when she doesn't do that, it becomes like, what kind of mother are you? Where's your motherly, instinct? Where's your motherly instinct? Like, because she wants to sleep and let her husband get up. Like, I've done the hard part. I've carried it. I've birthed it. You can get up and feed it. So, but there's that whole like, but he has to get up and go to work in the morning, and that's just not fair, and that's not right. And it's like, okay, but I have to be here all day changing diapers and dealing with this and doing that. So it's amazing how people look at women and the sacrifices we make, and it's just like, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what you do. Who said that? Who said that that is what we are supposed to do? And if we opt to do something different, why does that make us selfish? What do you guys think? You'll hear women say, oh, I can't wait to get married so I can do this. Well, why can't you do that now? I want to travel. Well, you still can. Things like that. The things that we pause our lives waiting for something else when it doesn't have to be that way, we can continue on. Or even with, the career situation, if a child is born and we have to figure out who's taking the child to the doctor's appointment, a lot of the times it's going to be the woman who rearranges her schedule and figures that out to get the child to the doctor. Again, not always, but a lot of times that is how it works, and it's not ever really expected. And I think if you're having a hard time with what I'm saying, I think it's understanding what is expected and accepted. Everybody's marriage doesn't work this way. For example, I don't do dentist appointments. My husband takes the kids to all of their dentist appointments. So he sets them up, he makes the appointments, he gets the call, he takes them. I've taken them to maybe 2 or 3 dentist appointments, and when I show up, they're looking at me like, who are you? And I get that look of like, how dare she makes her husband bring these kids to the dentist appointments? But he does. That's his thing. And the same with doctor's appointments. Once they get to a certain age, he's taking them and he does the appointments, or sometimes we'll split them in half. And it's not he takes the boys, I take the girls. He will take the girls too. So that's just a thing that we've worked out in our relationship. However, what I am saying is that when he shows up, there is that look of like, where's the mom? Where's the mom? And my husband has even talked about it, where he'll say, people have looked at him like, oh my gosh, is he a single dad? And he's like, oh, their mom, she left us. She's somewhere on drugs. Like he'll make those jokes because people are looking at him like, he has a thumb sticking out of his head. So again, it's the expectation that I am supposed to make a sacrifice in order to get our kids to the doctor's appointment versus him making a sacrifice and get the kids to the doctor's appointment. So that's what I'm saying here. I'm saying it's more of the expectation of society than it is how people operate in their marriage, because everybody operates differently. But because we know when society has an expectation on us and accepts things a certain way, it almost becomes law in our brains. And then we begin to accept it and expect it. And we begin to think that that's the norm and that's how this thing is supposed to work. Versus us stepping back and being like, wait, I don't have to do this, or this doesn't define me as a wife, or this doesn't define me as a mother, or even more so, this doesn't define me as a woman. That this doesn't make me a woman if I do this, or less of a woman if I don't do this, type of thing. Let me drink on that, y'all. Let me drink on that. I'm still a woman if I don't get married. I'm still a woman if I don't have children. I'm still a woman. I'm still a great mother if I opt to take a meeting and not show up at this this assembly or this play, and my husband goes in my place. I'm still a great mother. I'm still a great mother if I bottle feed and my husband does all the feeds. Or I'm still a great wife if I don't do your laundry for you because I have to do these other things. Or I'm still a great wife and support you if I'm not willing to give up everything I've built and worked for over here to follow you across the country so that you can take a higher position. I'm still a great wife. So it's that mindset. It's changing that thought process and understanding that I'm still this and I'm still great, even if I don't fall into the realms of what society is telling me I'm supposed to be. Who is society? Who are y'all? Who? Can you show yourself? Can society show itself, please? Let's end this one more topic. The idea of submission. Because I know I'm going to get those people that want to bring up the Bible and women submitting. This was brought up a few times on my video about sex and should sex be expected in a marriage. I'll leave that link for you guys. But I know a few people are going to bring that whole idea of submission and wives submit to your husbands and all of these things. And I remember, you guys, the struggle. If you know me and my husband's story, we had our daughter Jaden before we got married. We had even bought a house before we got married. So we were pretty much, I guess, doing all the things that married couples do. But I was struggling with the idea of marriage because this idea of submission, and what is that? Like, what you want me, like, can somebody please break down submission to me in a way that I can understand? And I remember when we did premarital counseling and that came up, just the idea, and I'm like, that for me is one of the struggles because your girl is not submissive, okay? And so I remember the counselor saying to me, you got to look at it like a neck and a head. And she said, the wife is the neck and the husband is the head. So we're talking head of household, right? And she's like, what controls the head? The neck. And she's like, the neck tells the head in which direction to go. And when you have a good head on your shoulders, the head is respecting and listening and taking, direction from the neck, so to speak. And so she used that analogy for me. And that was freeing for me. Not that I'm like, oh, good, I get to control my husband. But it was freeing for me because submission to me felt like giving up myself and my thoughts and my views and the way I think and my dreams and my goals. And just it felt like no longer being me and not having a voice. And the way she was explaining it to me is that's not what submission is. It's two parts working together for a greater good. And so that to me was like, okay, I get that. And so submission from the standpoint of we're both submissive, if that makes sense. We both have ideas, we both have thoughts, we both have opinions, and at some point he's gonna have to submit to what I feel, and at some point I'm gonna have to submit to what he feels. It also becomes what is the best thing for our entire family. It's not just about you, but understanding that I'm going to be making some sacrifices here. And so how is this going to benefit our entire family? So when we moved because of his job, there was a lot of talk, you guys, a lot of talk about what this will look like for everybody in our family. And there was a lot of talk about the things that I was having to give up and the sacrifices that I was having to make. And I had to discuss if I felt like the move was greater than the sacrifices that I was giving up. And had I come up with, no, this move is not better than this, the move wouldn't have happened. Because at the end of the day, I felt strong and was the one that was kind of struggling and dealing with it the most, that it became, okay, whatever you decide is what we're going to do. Does that make sense? So in that role, he kind of submitted to, I'm not going to pressure you. I'm going to let you kind of decide type thing. So that's kind of how we deal with that. But I do encourage people when they talk about, well, the Bible says submit. Okay, the Bible says a lot of things. And I encourage you to go and to read for yourself those passages, and always read a few passages before and a few passages after, and then sit with God and understand what that means in your heart. Not what a pastor, who is probably a man, is preaching from the pulpit to you on what you're supposed to do as a wife, or, you know, from another woman who in her marriage, maybe her submitting and letting her husband do everything works for them, but that may not work for you guys. So that would be my words of encouragement. By all means, you can do what you want. But for those of you who are wondering, like, well, what about submission? I would encourage you to read yourself, to sit and meditate on that, and to interpret it and meditate and figure out what works where you don't feel, because God doesn't want us to feel bad. You know, I just don't believe that he wants us to feel bad. And so if you're in a relationship where submission doesn't feel good, then you may need to reevaluate that. So that's my feelings on submission. Let's double drink on that. All right, you guys. So that's our Tuesday talk. I would love to hear what you guys think about sacrificing and women sacrificing, and society spoon feeding us what it is to be a woman, from when we're tiny all the way up to the expectations and acceptance of women giving up certain aspects of their lives or themselves in order to be submissive or supportive or whatever for their significant other or their children. What are you guys' thoughts on that? What's your take on sacrifice and submission? Leave that below. Even though this video was not about submission, that's another chat. That's another chat. But leave your comments below. If you guys have any other questions or want to discuss this topic in more details, or if this sparked a different topic and you're like, we need to chat about this, leave that below as well and we'll chat it up on Tuesday. And if you are still here, you're still here and you're new, then you need to hit the subscribe button and join our family. We would love to have you here. We have fun, we chat, we disagree, and we chat more, and we laugh. So join my family and hit the subscribe button. And if you want to see some more Tuesday chats, if you're like, what the heck do they be talking about? I'll leave some videos right here and right here for you guys to check out. And to the rest of my family, I love you guys, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.